Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Accelerator with Michael Conniff. That's me. Our job is to bring together investors, VCs, angels, family offices, investment firms with entrepreneurs, founders, and startups. And to that end, we have the privilege of interviewing Bjorn Ekeberg. He is the Chief Commercial Officer at Recharge Health, coming to us from, I think you're in Sweden, aren't you, Bjorn?
I'm in Norway, so it's pretty close.
No,
yeah.
All right. Just that's a rookie era, getting the countries in Scandinavia mixed up. I apologize, but we're here to talk about something I can actually show you. This is the FlexBeam for Recharge, and I'm going to let you explain it, and then maybe I will. This is a rare occasion where I have personal experience with it, thanks to you sending me one. And I also want to point out that we do not do recommendations to buy or sell or any of that here. Do your own research, make your own decisions. This is merely informational, but I'm excited about this because it's kind of an interesting product. So tell us about. First, let's start with what this does. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna turn it on, and we'll see the red light because there is a very distinctive red light here that we're not supposed to look at for very long. So there you can see the red light.
Mm-hmm.
So normally I put that around my tennis elbow, and I've gotten some pretty good results from that. But tell us what's really going on here in terms of, the medical, the science, I should say.
Yeah, so the strange thing you're holding is what we call a recovery device. But really what it is targeted red light therapy. And red light therapy is something that some people have heard of, but not quite yet. It's something that has actually existed for like decades of research and science on this. And NASA developed this actually for their astronauts, this technology. And it's using infrared wavelengths of light that have been scientifically proven to stimulate a certain cellular response in the body. So there's been hundreds and thousands of studies on this developed, but then athletes have caught on to it, and self-professed biohackers, people who want to sort of upgrade their own physiology, they've caught on to red light therapy as a way to improve recovery and optimize health, basically.
And the red light is an infrared light technology?
Yeah, so it's combining infrared and red light. So, light exists on the visible spectrum and infrared is just off the side of it. And there's certain wavelengths that have been shown to stimulate a certain response, a physiological response in the body. And that's what we put into this device. And really what sets it apart from any other technology out there is that this is the first targeted and wearable device of the sort. You can buy a lamp, a bulb, or panel to put on your wall, but we founded the company on the vision that we wanted to take this technology home to people, where people can actually use it at home. And the reason why people haven't heard of it, I think, is because there hasn't been a product that's made it accessible. It's been a very sort of, either you go into a very expensive sort of Olympic athlete tanning bed style thing that costs $10,000, or you have a yourself at home sort of wall panel type thing where you have to undress in front of it. And so we happened with our team to come up with the sort of first solution for how you can use it anytime, anywhere.
I want to hear more about the team, but let's just stay with the technology for a moment.
Yeah.
So I also want to point out it gets red. But it does not get hot. It warms up a little bit, but not really so you'd notice. And you're also cautioned at all times not to like stare at it. It's like an eclipse of the sun. Don't look at that red light for too long. It could affect your vision. But that's a minor thing. So on a cellular level, what is happening when you use this red light technology and this product, the FlexBeam in particular?
Yeah, so at the cellular level, when you use this thing, the main mechanism of treatment is really through something called the mitochondria. And I'm not sure if your listeners are familiar with this. There's a mushrooming
I've heard of the mitochondria. I am probably like almost everyone out there and not knowing exactly what it is, but it's a cellular element, isn't it? A cell. It's within the cells, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like the powerhouse of the cell. So the mitochondria are heavily involved in producing energy in the cell.
Mm-hmm.
And you have billions of them in your body. And there is a mushrooming literature online if you want to look up mitochondria. People talk about mitochondrial health, and this is becoming a known thing because it's one of the biggest factors in your health state overall is how your mitochondria are doing. That is like how effective your cells are regenerating and healing your body. So the main mechanism of red light therapy and these specific wavelengths at very specific power output of red and near infrared in combination, they stimulate the mitochondria and the cells to basically work more efficiently so they can produce more energy. And one of the physiological effects of this that you will feel if you use it is that it increases blood flow and oxygenation wherever you put it. This has been designed to, you wear it where it hurts. So in your case, it's a tennis elbow.
Well,
But one of the effects of stimulating is
it hurts everywhere, Bjorn. Just to be clear, but that's the most pressing problem at the moment. But,
I see, and it's for that kind of purpose, right? So
yeah. Well, I have lots of places where I could be putting it, but I've been focused on the elbow primarily. Yeah.
Interesting. And how has it been so far?
Well, it's been helpful. I've had chronic tennis elbow first in the right and then in the left. It's not actually in the elbow. It's actually kind of the muscle that extends from the elbow, I would say. It's actually been it definitely feels better. I don't have the brace on. I've had to wear a brace for quite a bit, even in everyday life. But I also used it, and I wanted to mention right up front that I used it when I had a groin pull. I almost never get groin pulls, but I got a really bad one. I don't even know how I got it, but it might have been playing the drums. But anyway, I had a groin pull, and I put it directly on the skin. And over the course of 2 days, the pain went completely away. Now, historically, groin pulls for me don't last. The pain doesn't last very long, but I'm pretty certain that it had a very positive effect. I don't know that it can take 100% of the credit because the body does heal naturally sometimes. But if I had another groin pull, I would immediately use it again. So I guess that's my testimonial for the product. And I'm gonna when I watch television, I wear I wear this for about 10 minutes. You're not supposed to use it for that long, right?
There are 10-minute sessions, so it's timed. It switches off. If you have a particular problem area, you can do 2. I mean, analogously to how with a supplement or a pill, sometimes 2 is okay, not 1. But it's not with light. It's because you're producing a stimulus response. It's not that more is better. So using it for an hour or 2 hours is not going to make it more effective. In fact, it might make it much less effective because you're.
What are the results that you're seeing? Now, the product's been on the market for how long, and what are the results you're now seeing?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really glad to hear your story, and I will say it falls into thousands of users. We have 6,000 users so far.
Okay.
And we launched with crowdfunding at the very end of 2020 and sort of operating through 2021. And we, in the last half year, have switched to an e-commerce platform. So the product has been available for that period, and rapidly expanding along with the word of mouth. The biggest obstacle that we are facing is that people haven't heard about this, the educational part of like this thing actually exists.
Yeah. And there's science behind it. What is the FlexBeam cost at retail in the United States and then elsewhere? I assume it's similar.
Like $5.99, and that is $599 and not $599. I wish I could make it for $5.99, but
yes, well, someday. But that's a pretty stiff investment, right? Are you getting? So let me ask it this way: who is the typical buyer and user? Is it an older person? Is it somebody who you assume has more income?
Generally speaking, it seems to be in the older part of the mid-range spectrum. I mean, when we launched this, we were trying to speak first to early tech adopters, people interested in new technology. Tended to be 35 to 55, but we saw customers are in the there's a pattern where the older they are, the more likely they are to have pain and injuries, and the more likely they are to be able to afford it. So
Yeah, that's for
um,
sure. That's for sure true.
yeah, but it is a wide span, and
Yeah.
we're making quite a big inroads into sports as a
Mhm.
sports device and
Mhm.
for athletes, and that's definitely a much younger kind of
Sure.
customers. Sports and fitness and active recreation is our sort of main focus right now for the device, because this is a group that also tends to have more injuries and tends to take more care of their bodies
And
and
there's
willing
there's
to try something out.
and there's
For
money on the line. I know LeBron James, the basketball star, he is said to and has said that he puts $1 million a year into the maintenance of his body, like literally
right.
massage therapists, the various cryo chambers, whatever would help. Now, what are you hearing from professional or nearly professional athletes about the FlexBeam product and this red light technology?
I mean, the ones we've introduced it to and have tried it, they all really like it for their specific sport, like for their routine. So it integrates into their routine. At the top professional level, it's hard to get them to speak on our behalf, to fundraise a lot, to put it this way. We have very encouraging early results. And we've
Yeah,
had the sponsorship offerings that we've had to turn down simply because we can't afford it.
yeah.
Uh, but
They
like
all they
that
all want
come
to
from
be
a genuine place. So
Yeah, they
from
want
having
to be
used it.
paid. The athletes and the teams and the leagues, they all want to be paid. They want you to
Yeah.
write the check, but that doesn't mean they're not using it. We're talking to
Yeah.
Bjorn Ekeberg. He is with Recharge Health. The product is the FlexBeam. It's a red light technology, infrared light as well, that you put and you put directly on the skin, right? You put directly on the skin.
Yep.
It's three different settings for depth of muscle penetration, I guess you would say. I've been using it. I've had, I would say, definitely good results. I'm going to keep using it. So that's the test. Um, but let's talk, Bjorn, if we could, about you and your team.
Yeah.
You are a writer who has had a movie on Netflix, right? So that makes you a storyteller, close to my heart. How did you get? What was your path to this company? And then we'll talk about your other founders and team members.
I mean, this is really an opportunity that came in from the sideline that I didn't seek. It sort of found me. I've been working as a screenwriter and writing drama series and films in Norway and for the Scandinavian industry for a while. And this is really an old friend of mine and an acquaintance that basically came to me. They had happened upon something new. And it's an old friend who is an entrepreneur, and he started many companies before. And he's always, danced around, maybe we should work together or something. And
Sure.
in this case, I could just tell it was different. And when I got to meet the rest of the team and I saw the product they had, the kind of technology they had, and this whole story that we started talking about, that why haven't I heard about this? Like, why haven't I heard about there being something that you could do instead of, painkillers or something else that might actually be a really effective way? Uh, and that's when I realized that this is the storytelling opportunity of a lifetime, and it's not fictional. It is literally just documenting like what happens to people and
Yeah.
what it can do for them. So
Yeah.
I've
Is
kind
it?
of had a career shift as a consequence of this
Hmm.
opportunity. And it's about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been a rocket ship that we already have the first product and we launched and we're selling and we're sort of self-sustaining
Hmm.
on sales alone. And now we're looking to take this to a wider market. And this is why we're also looking for like the right investor to take us to the next level,
Okay,
basically.
we'll get to the investment in
Yeah.
just a second, but tell me about the rest of the team. You're the chief commercial officer. Who else is guiding the ship?
Yeah, so the inventor of FlexBeam, his name is Arjen Helder. He is a Dutch electronics engineer, and he initially designed this because he wanted to help his wife with a health problem. Like, she had some sort of liver issues. She was only prescribed painkillers,
Hmm.
and he went online and he came across this sort of red light therapy NASA papers, and being one of the very few people in the world who like makes these kinds of things for a living, he just ordered the parts and said, I can make one myself. And that's when he realized, through trying it on his wife, and then the neighbors found out, and then he brought his friend Christian, my old friend, who's the former CEO. He's the founder and chairman of the company.
What is his full name?
Christian Barman.
Okay.
Yeah. He like basically came on board to realize this is a huge thing. We could see the kind of results in patients trying it on in the first place. And they specialize in supply chain logistics, getting things produced in Asia. So the operational base of the company is in Thailand and not in Norway. So that's where we make all the products. And finally, the key part of our founding team is Dr. Zulia Frost, who is has 20, 30 years experience sort of bridging. She is a Western trained doctor who has full holistic understanding of also traditional Chinese medicine, energy therapies. So she's been working with laser, lights, neurostimulation technology for decades on patients. She's had thousands of patients that she's been treating with this kind of technology before. And she had a dream to make this, like to break that sound barrier as well and tell people that it's like, there's actually something you can do for yourself at home. So with us the four pillars of the founding team is when we set out to try to, that's why we call ourselves Recharge Health, is literally our mission, I should say, to help recharge people's health, that there is this technology that exists and we want to make it accessible for people to use.
Yes, and
to heal and recover better.
Yeah, and it's $599 for the FlexBeam. I'll hold it up one more time. But let me ask you, so you've got a strong team. What strikes me as a strong team, certainly a balanced team, and you've got 6,000 users. Let's walk through the money a little bit. In 2020, you did a crowdfunding. Where did you do that, and how much money did you raise?
Yeah, we did an Indiegogo campaign in October 2020, and in the first crowdfunding window, we raised almost $1 million, and then we extended on their platform. It's called In Demand, and we stayed there until last summer. So we raised $1.8 million on the Indiegogo.
Wow. If you don't mind,
and then we switched to crowdfunding. Yeah,
I wanted to drill down on that just a little bit. So, when a Indiegogo user invested in your company, what did they get? Did they get shares? How did that work? How does that work?
Yeah, sorry. So this is a crowdfunding for the product. So they were backing us by buying the product. And in most cases, they got a special discount for waiting because we hadn't made the product yet. They ordered it. So they pre-ordered basically. And we had a small batch that we had made that we sold as a ready-to-ship device, which sold out immediately whenever we had them. And then most of the orders were pre-orders.
So these were they were buying the FlexBeam.
They're buying FlexBeam. That's what we launched with.
Yeah.
So we didn't crowdfund for investors.
Okay. And so after the 1.8 million, what have the next steps been? That was in 2020. It started in 2020. What about?
Yeah. So we raised over $1 million in the same period from angel and seed investors, and started an e-platform last summer. So with that now, we've sold an additional 1,500 devices since Q3 last year. And we have a sales curve now that it's rising. So we're on course to sell for at least $4 million this year is the goal of FlexBeam.
In revenue, $4 million worth of FlexBeams. And do you have additional products coming? Is it a one product company, or is there other ways you can deploy this red light?
Yeah, no, we have a pipeline of products, and this is why we're now looking to expand our funnel and put some of the investor capital that we're raising in the next round will go to basically R&D of the next products we have developed conceptually, and we have the hardware part really figured out because that's one of our strengths. And we're really looking to expand on the software digital integration side to create a user experience for people that really fits the times we live in. As FlexBeam, as you have right now, is a very easy to use analog product.
Yeah. So does that mean that you might be able to use your devices to extract data from users and process the data somehow, present the data?
there is meaningful data to be had with this. There are sensors we can place in an upgraded version of this, and also that it can integrate with other health tracking data you have. I mean, we see increasingly the consumer marketplace is going toward whether you have an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or an Oura Ring like I have. It's just the gathering of health data is becoming it's more than just a marginal trend. It's becoming mainstream. And so I think a user expectation is to be able to use a device like this and have it speak to it, so to speak. But the notable thing, I mean, about health, yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that, I mean, most of these health technologies in the health tech space is dominated by technologies that measure the body, like can provide metrics and data, right? So the part of health tech that we are moving into is like, this is health technology that actually can affect the body, that can start improving physiological processes. So then the measurement becomes a sort of a secondary thing, an add-on component that can add value to users.
Can you give me some sense of what it would be measuring? Would it be measuring cellular activity? Would it be producing data about the mitochondria? How would that work?
Yeah, the mitochondria would be hard to measure because it's so minute. Yeah. Oxygenation in the blood, how HRV is affected, are two kinds of metrics. We can also measure heat. Like you can see the results in the tissue. Like if you have a camera, like a thermal camera, use it on your arm before and after, you will actually be able to trace some of the physiological changes that are happening inside. So these are some of the kinds of measurement technologies that we're looking into combining to give users a more complete experience of what actually happens when you treat yourself with infrared light.
And I am told by people who know about this that the consumer data element is really compelling for investors. That whether it started with Fitbit or not, it's a bit of a holy grail to have that really personalized data on people. So that who knows, that could be the tail that wags the dog. You never know. But let's talk about what your current round looks like. What are you trying to raise now, and how big is the round, and we'll get into valuation and things like that.
Yeah, so we are looking now for pre-Series A round in the Norwegian company. That's going to take us to a Series A where we expect to have the complete prototype for the next product and so on. So the current round, we are looking for $1.4 million. It's about 12 million kroner in Norwegian. And so it's a relatively small round, but that is to really build the runway for us to come and present this at a much higher valuation and a bigger stage, basically, for a Series A.
So with 6,000 people buying the product, you must have a plethora of qualitative feedback, maybe quantitative too. But what are people telling you? What are you hearing? What's the message from users?
I mean, it's overwhelmingly encouraging and positive. So we are I find myself often trying to sift through data, just I want to know about the silent part, about the people who don't speak. But overall, our surveys show that it's about 70% of users highly recommended to other, are likely to recommend it to other people. And so we know that there's a baseline, there is a word of mouth factor in with the device itself, which was an important reason to get started with it, is to believe that most people will feel the effect when they use it, and they will validate that it actually is working. So that's that's most of what we hear. In some cases, there are exceptional stories, because this device can make a difference in someone's life for a pathway. And in other cases, for people who are more fit or don't have any particular health challenges, it's more of a wellness. It's like a routine thing that they love having a meditation session with it. People go to sleep with it.
Yeah.
It also helps to trigger sleep.
Yeah.
So there's a whole spectrum that seem to be in charge of marketing for this, because there are so many different applications.
Actually,
right? People tell us different stories.
Yeah. That was what I was going to ask, is how do you market this? Because number one, I think we have to call it an unknown technology for the most part.
Yeah. Largely speaking, it is.
I would say in practice, having used it, it's very benign. It does shut off after 10 minutes. You don't, the device itself can, it can feel a little on an elbow, which is a smaller body part, it sort of covers the whole elbow. Um, but I would think that you're going to be very reliant on for what we used to call word of mouth.
Yeah, and it's really user testimonials is what we're also gathering. We have about 100 individual video interview testimonials at this point in a
Yeah.
growing library. And we have several hundred sort of written testimonials and user reviews.
Yeah.
So this is a we have a Trustpilot page now that is like people, that is a verified user reviews in which we're almost 5 out of 5. And so we see that the users are the key to also to the brand, like they are the stories of transformation that we want to show. So, I mean, ideally, that is how basically this becomes known. Any marketing campaign would do will just be a driver for a certain kind of attention. But really, it's the people in their stories. And in the case of athletes, for example, their word of mouth to other athletes, trainers, sports doctors. We have some like really strong sports doctors, especially in the UK and in Norway, have like really done trials with this and recommending it to their clubs. So we see this as like the word of mouth and the credibility of who speaks for it is going to be it's the main vehicle to get the message out.
So what you're saying, Norway is going to keep beating the United States and everyone else in cross country skiing and Nordic sports. That's why they call them Nordic sports, right?
Yeah, well, we kind of cleaned up the Winter Olympics, but that's
Yes.
just it's an unfair advantage too.
Yes, it is. It is. It's
Yeah.
not fair. You're beating up on us little countries like the United States, China, and Russia. So I guess the final question is that I have about this is how big is this market? I mean, you could make the argument like I don't know how many ACE bandages. You're familiar with ACE bandages, right? They're kind of the classic wraparound if you have an injury.
Mhm.
I don't know how many of those are sold, but I'm guessing like it's a lot. And even these, for example, the elbow brace that I bought at the local drugstore for my
Mhm.
elbow was out of stock pretty much for months and months and months. They couldn't keep it in stock. So there's obviously an aging population that's going to have a greater need for this kind of thing. And also it's like it's really a global product, isn't it? It can be used all over the world. So what's the potential of this? How big could red light technology get?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, Michael, that we've also been grappling with trying to position this because the category for the product doesn't really yet exist, right? And the sector doesn't really exist. So if you look at light therapy because there's tons of different kinds of devices that use light, that's about a $1 billion market.
Hmm.
But if
Already,
you look,
right now.
that's already a global market, $1 billion, and that's
Hmm.
rising steadily by all the normal forecasts. But when you look at wearable, like the whole position of wearable medical devices, for example, that's like $25 billion and growing super fast. Sports technology is over a $20 billion market, right?
Mhm.
And this is the key to like our positioning now with recovery, and that's really where we have ended on all these applications. The message that we want to tell and how we want to position this device is as a recovery device, right? It's
Mm.
like this. So sports crossing into medical sector. That's really the key place we want to play. But if you look at it from the perspective of pain and as a pain solution for people, painkiller market alone is $26 billion annually, right? So just a non-pharmaceutical solution within that space. You add all these bits up, and of course, we're not the global solution for everything, one-stop shop, but the market is huge. And I think the most important thing we're seeing is that there's a space that's shifting in health and wellness and how people think about their own health.
Mm.
And this is really like it started already when I joined, just the early days of the company. But I think during the pandemic and the move toward online shopping, it has accelerated. Is people tend to find their own solutions. Like, doctors are more like prescribers of pills and are no longer the trusted advisors on health. People find their own solutions, online. They do more research. And there's a whole strategy around health that's turning away from, let's say, about being about sickness and illness toward what can I do to take positive steps toward my own health? And that's the conversation that we as a brand and with this product that we want to encourage and be part of. So health optimization is a way to describe it.
Well, Bjorn Ekeberg, he's the Chief Commercial Officer at Recharge Health, based in Norway. You're a heck of a storyteller, and you have to tell everybody what's your movie, what's your script that was produced. What's the name of it? It's Borderline on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it was a series called Borderliner on Netflix, and I also was privileged enough to be part of making a show called which is in smaller streaming services, but what's like one of the top-rated shows by New York Times and BBC, like many years ago, and has spawned a remake. It was fun, but
yeah,
this story is more real and more dear to my heart, I have to say.
Okay, well, it's funny because I'm thinking, girl with the dragon tattoo, and you don't really strike me as the typically brooding Scandinavian mystery writer. but I guess
thank you. That's actually a huge compliment. Thank you.
Well, good, because I really like that stuff. I look forward to seeing that on Netflix, and I want to thank you so much for being with us today, particularly for your patience in getting all of this to work. And I hope you will get back to us when you complete that pre-A Norway round, and just keep us posted on your progress. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, excellent. And if any listeners or viewers are interested, then please reach out via you. I'd be happy to get in contact with anyone that thinks, because it's really, we are looking to do a round in Norway, but the interest for this is also in the US, and US is our biggest market.
Two questions. One is what's the best place for people to reach you? And then what's the best place to buy this?
You can go to buy the product is at recharge.health. That is our web shop. Recharge Health with a dot in between. And I'm Bjorn at recharge.health. So just reach out to me and I'll be happy to take the conversation from there.
Bjorn, BJORN at recharge.health.
That's right.
Right. Okay, so we hope people will try it, and we love your reaction if you do. And want to thank you again, Bjorn Ekeberg, for being with us today on the Accelerator. Thanks so much.
Thanks for the opportunity, Michael. Cheers.
Always a pleasure.